Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk about Black History Month. The month that is a celebration of my people, because I am a black man and everything. And it's about all our accomplishments, all the oppression that we have gone through over like centuries of living in like America and stuff like that. And even till this day, we are still being oppressed. And so I'm here today to talk to you about certain characters or TV shows or episodes that revolve around Black History Month that I personally enjoy. So I'm here today to talk to you about why representation matters in the entertainment media and why it matters so much for Black people and people of color in general. Representation is something that is quickly dominating the entertainment business. And it's like dominating it now in modern days, but back in the day, it did not. Back in the day, it was very rare to turn on television and or watch a movie and see yourself in it. Why? Because back in those days, TV, medium, entertainment, whatever you want to call it, was predominantly white, especially back in the really old days of like 1950s, 60s, stuff like that. Because times were very much different. Times was very hateful back then. If you were to see a person of color on television, it will mostly be either a white actor painting their face, or it would be like the actual person of color, and they would pretty much make a mockery of that race, a stereotype, if you will. And it was all for the amusement of white people, so they can laugh at the expenses of people of color. It is very disgusting. It is very telling of how people were back then and even how some people still act today. And well, the thing is like a lot of people's perspectives of folks comes from TV. TV is something that folks learn from. You learn how to like speak different languages by watching TV. You learn about their cultures. You learn about their lifestyles. It's integrated in our brains, and whether you want to or not. And how you see somebody perceived on screen will be your perception of that person until you are properly educated. And sadly, back in those days, like I said before, when you saw somebody of color, it was normally that of a stereotype. Or you will only see white people on TV. There were no black heroes. There really weren't no black comedians. There weren't no big time black movie action stars. You rarely saw stuff like that. There were no black politicians. When black people did start coming into mediums, it was around the time of mostly music. You heard them. You would see them on TV performing at concerts and stuff. And when it started to catch on, it later went into that television. And when it went into television, it was mostly like sitcoms or maybe like an action role, something like that. But mainly sitcoms, especially around like the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. But in the 70s, it really started like pick up steam with shows like The Jeffersons, shows like Good Times. You know, Black people finally started seeing themselves on TV. And however, they always saw themselves in one perspective: poor. People struggling, trying to like, get ahead in life, which is still something Black people see today. Now, it's okay to have a poor Black person on television because, like, hey, a lot of Black people are very poor and stuff like that. So, but, you have to educate and teach and provoke young Black people to want to strive for something more, which is why representation is very crucial when it comes to like television, which is why most Black comedy shows you will see normally has that of like wealthy Black people, educated Black people, um, people, black people who kind of like between like the medium of like sophistication and somewhat not. And this is to like properly educate younger black people to strive for that, to stay out the streets, to avoid gangs, to not go to jail, not to sell drugs, stuff like that. And so like that is why black superheroes are very important. Superheroes make or break a person. They teach people. They teach people to do the right thing and strive not to do like the bad stuff that ends them up in jail. And but the problem is in comic book history, especially in like the 1940s and stuff, it was predominantly white. And if there was like a person of color, they was a huge, like I said before, a mockery, a stereotype. The Mandarin from Iron Man was the whole I forgot what they call this thing. Something Wang, something Fu, something. It was like it was like a stereotypical like Chinese person, buck teeth, um, squinty eyes, weird looking clothes, and his name, the Mandarin, is racist all on its own. And so like when young kids or even some adults and everything has never seen an Asian person, has never met an Asian person, talked to an Asian person or whatever, they will assume, okay, this is what they are like. You know what I'm saying? And that is such a huge problem with the entertainment business. Now, heroes come in all different forms. It could be a literal superhero, it could be a TV star, it could be a politician, it could be a sports performer, it could be anybody. But for the most part, most people think of heroes as just like, superheroes. And the very first black superhero was, of course, Black Panther in 1966. And there was controversy when he first came out. First, his cowl exposed like his mouth area, but then that was quickly changed to a full-on mask that covered his mouth and his face because they was afraid that the white viewers would not accept that or like that. And so this started a trend of more black superheroes coming into the fold and their supervillains. However, they will always name black and then whatever the other name would be. Just so like it's weird. They did it as like, hey, this person is black and stuff like that. But we can tell when they take off their mask, so we don't need to know that their name is black and it's something else. But it started to be a trend with a lot of people: Black Panther, Black Lightning, Black Manta. It was just the thing. Although Black Bolt is a white dude, so yeah. But anyways, and other heroes started to take like fruition. Steel, Rocket, Static. And if you're wondering why I'm having a hard time remembering black superheroes' names, and that's because there are very few of them. There really aren't that many because when you look at Marvel, when you look at DC, it is predominantly white. And a lot of people have the hardest time trying to think of a superhero. Like, I assumed that my first superhero I ever saw that was black was Zack from Power Rangers. But then after doing some more thinking, oh no, wait, he wasn't. It was actually Hammer time, MC Hammer of all things, when he had that cartoon series. And then Storm. And, then it was Zack. And, I literally had the hardest time thinking of, like, say, a black superhero's name, or a Hispanic one, or a Jewish one, or an Italian one, or whatever. But I can literally go on for hours and hours and hours in naming tons of white superheroes. So this is what young people need. They need to see themselves. They need to envision themselves as a hero, fighting for justice, doing the right thing, stopping the forces of evil. It is something that I am so glad when I watch TV and I see like these characters being race bent. Like, I know a lot of people have a problem with that. Get over it. So because we need our time in like the spotlight as well. And the problem is there are so many people who screaming, "Oh, we're being replaced," or like this is woke and everything. And these people literally just want to see white people on TV. That's all that is. They will never truly admit it, so that's why they use the term woke, which they have stolen from black people, and they have twisted and made it into like um a weaponized word. Woke used to mean like to have you like make you wake up and realize that you're not the only race in the world. We are here too. We deserve the opportunities that you do. And so then somehow that got later mixed in with entertainment with like they used to call it SJW type stuff. They have more people of color on TV, more strong women, more LGBT. But then hateful white people who are actually hateful, not the good ones, but the hateful ones, heard this word, saw what it meant, and they weaponized it. And when they weaponized it, now they use it with a fury and hate. Every time they see a black person on TV, they scream, "Woke!" Every time they see a strong woman or LGBT, they're hollering that word. Or they're saying, "Well, we're being replaced," and everything. And you know what? If you didn't act so hateful, if you didn't screw stuff up so much since the beginning of time, you would not be replaced. If you stopped acting hateful and racist, you would not be replaced and everything. If y'all would have had more people of color, introduced more superheroes and stuff, introduced more like positive black characters, nobody would have to be getting race bent and all this other crap. But no, because you just want to see yourself on TV. And you know, the thing about it is like when all these hateful little troll, little fandom menace type people online are screaming woke and being replaced, you gotta stop and ask yourself this. When you watched the movie and you saw a white person doing blackface, doing brownface, doing yellowface, doing red face, were you screaming we're being replaced then? Were you screaming woke then? Were you upset? Were you pissed off? Were you mad? Were you fuming? No, you wasn't, because you didn't care, because you weren't the ones being made fun of. And it is a shame, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And the whole thing about screaming the whole woke thing, you know as well as I do. That's y'all new favorite word. It's y'all replacement for the N word. Because y'all use it just as much as y'all used it back in the past when y'all call people the N word and stuff. That's why so many of you do it. That's why y'all do it in a hateful way. Now you got all these little toxic, like white politicians, these old people doing it as well. This word has now become a symbol of hate because that is what you are, a hateful person. And heroes aren't just like on screen. I remember one time, like, I was watching this one YouTube channel. I forgot who this girl is, but she was talking about the show, the Disney Channel show, Jesse. And she was talking about the Ravi character, the Indian dude. And she was really upset about this character because she said that he is a huge stereotype. She said that, could you imagine being a little Indian kid who like either lives in India or moved someplace else and you've never seen yourself on TV before? And then you turn on the Jesse show and you see Ravi and you see him constantly getting picked on and bullied and treated badly by everybody on the show, even that of his family, constantly getting made fun of. And then you see him act like a dork and the butt of every joke. She said literally, that is no way to represent nobody. That is no way to see yourself on TV. And that's going to cause that little kid to assume this is what people think of them. And this is how I should act. And that's exactly why we need more positive role models on TV and stuff. But you know, TV isn't just fairy tales. You can't have every black person be super rich like the Banks on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Sometimes you have to show the grittiness of it and stuff, and the sad, depressing elements of it. And that's when you have like more down to earth urban shows, but you always still gotta have that. If that person's gonna be like poor or in the ghetto or whatever, you gotta have that person strive up and make something of themselves and be that good example for young black kids and even some adults out there. Because, when you do see that bad representation on TV of people constantly running from the cops, shooting up, robbing places, this and that, and, the reality is sometimes you probably won't see that person go to jail on TV. But chances are, when you're a young kid and you see that and you're trying to emulate that, you are going to end up in jail. And that is something that really pains me when I constantly see these young black kids constantly getting arrested or getting shot. And most of the ones who get shot, they don't even do nothing. And, they literally are just being themselves. And you always have that one hateful person who wants to take that person out because they assume, oh, all black people are dangerous because they saw one black person be dangerous and stuff. And it's really insulting. And that's why I love shows like Living Single, Fresh Prince, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, stuff like that, because they show um, another perspective of black culture, that's not rooted in like gangs and gangsters and thugs and stuff like that. And, you know, back to this whole hero thing, heroes, like I said before, aren't just all superheroes. A hero can be whatever you want to make it. Like, take a wrestler. Like, people love watching wrestling. It's these big athletic people who are bigger than life, these warriors, and they're like fighting, and they're winning championship belts. They're entertaining people. And like, all of these people from the WWE have been like a world champion at one point. And what's really sad is that it took 45 years after the WWE was created just for there to be the very first person of color, a black person, to be more specifically as the world champion. And that person was The Rock. He is half black, he is half Samoan. Now, his cousin, who played Yokozuna, he is Samoan as well, and I believe he was the first actual person of color to win that belt. But The Rock is considered the first black man to win that belt, and it took 45 years for a black man to win that belt. And all those other champions you see right here, they won that belt as well, but it took a very long time. It took over a decade just for another one to win the WWE Championship. In fact, it actually took, I believe, about a decade and a half just for Kofi Kingston to win that belt. And it took forever. Why? Because Vince McMahon's golden boy, Randy Orton, did not like Kofi because of one botch. And because of that, he was derailed. His push was derailed. And when he did win the belt, how did he lose it? By being squashed by the big white dude, who is Vince's new golden boy. And when it comes to Booker T, you gotta give this dude credit. Yes, he has always been a heel for the most part in WWE, which sucks. Because when he was the face, he was a good face, but he never lasted as a face that long. But heels are synonymous with making people notice them and getting people to root for them when they turn face. And he was probably the second black man to hold a WCW title, the first being Ron Simmons. I had no idea. Not until tonight, tell you the truth. And Ron won that belt 6 years before The Rock won his WWE title. And so, like, when Booker T won it, of course, he won it 5 times because he loves saying 5 times over and over. But then when he got to the WWE, despite being a decorated champion in WCW, Vince always makes everybody go to the bottom and rise to the top. So he was getting championship belt after championship belt in the Continental, US, Tag. And then when it finally came time for him to be a world champion, He didn't even get the WWE belt. Vince, for some bizarre reason, never gave him that belt and gave him the World Heavyweight title, the big gold belt, which is a belt he had 5 times in WCW. It's the same belt, just redesigned and everything with the logo on it and stuff, and a different shade of like gold. But it is literally the same belt, and he kept winning that one. He never had a chance to have the world heavyweight one, the big gold one. And that belt is coveted. But when you're in a company, you should have the crown jewel belt, the main company's belt. And for some reason, Vince never gave him that belt. And what's even worse is that he had this huge storyline with Triple H where he should have won, but Triple H, being Triple H, wanted to keep the belt and everything. And to add insult to injury, Vince decided he was going to call Booker T the N-word on TV because Vince thinks stuff like that is funny. And then what's worse is that when they found out that him and Batista was in a real life feud, they added that to the storyline, all for Booker T to lose his belt to the man he's feuding with in real life. Why? Because it's one of Vince's golden boys. And don't even get me started on Bobby Lashley. It took him forever, nearly 2 decades, to become the WWE champion. And he had to go all the way to TNA just to become a world champion, because the only belt Vince gave him was the ECW title. And by that time, that belt really didn't mean nothing, because Vince ran that company into the ground and he buried it. And, we all saw what happened with Bobby just recently when he won the title back from, who did he win it from? He won it from, okay, Big E won it. Then rumor has it Vince is pissed at Big E because Big E's too silly goofy and won't take stuff seriously. So he let Bobby have it again just for Bobby to lose it to Brock Lesnar. And so then, no, Big E took it from, no, Brock took it from Big E. I'm forgetting people's names. I haven't really watched wrestling in a long time. So Brock took it from Big E, and then Bobby took it from Brock, and then Bobby lost it because he got a concussion in real life, but then they gave it back to the golden dude. And nobody wants him to have it for a person who only shows up for a couple of months out of a year when he wants to and wrestles when he wants to. And Vince lets him do that because Vince loves his golden boy and he's terrified of him in real life. Because the dude literally threw a belt at him. And then he also sued the WWE for when the WWE didn't let him out his contract early enough. And this dude comes back to the company after leaving the UFC, and Vince just lets him do whatever he wants, win whatever he wants, while all these other black superstars who work their butts off get like nothing in the company. And it's a shame and a disgrace. And the women are no different. Now, Jazz was a really good champion. She's a really good wrestler. She's a really good heel. But when her and her husband didn't get an action figure made by WWE, but all the white superstars did, they left. That's a rumor I heard. And then Jacqueline is tough. Jacqueline was a women's champ. She can actually wrestle, but they wanted other people to to be trained by her, like Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson, when those two never wanted to wrestle. Then to add insult to injury, when she won the women's title, she got beat by the boss's daughter and never got that belt back. That is a crying shame. And that's back when the women's division was like nothing. But now it's a whole lot better now. Now you got people like Bianca Belair. You got people like Sasha Banks. You got people like Bayley. You got people like Becky Lynch and all of them. And, it's so much better than what it used to be. But then what happened to Bianca Belair, one of the strongest females in wrestling today? She got squashed within a couple of seconds by a white girl. Why? Because Vince was hyping up her return and he was getting stale of Bianca. And it's just like, People still to this day are furious about Kofi losing the way he did, the way Bianca lost the way she did. How some of these other superstars don't get their due because Vince is constantly catering to his white audience and his own white self. And it's just like, no young black person wants to see that. When I watched Ron Simmons win the WC title for the first time, and he was talking to Stone Cold, he said that that moment meant so much to so many young fans. And he even said there wasn't even that many black people in the audience. And then just about almost every other person who was like white stood up and cheers when he won because it was a big thing. It was a huge thing. I saw this one young black dude, probably like a teenager. He was like falling down, standing up, all in excitement. That's how happy he was when he saw a black man win this title, which I think was probably the first black person to win that title and stuff. I'm not too familiar with WCW. I never really watched it. I was always a WWE guy. Then I went to a TNA guy, and I went back to WWE, and then I stopped. WWE just went PG, and I got tired of that crap. Like, that is what it means to see like a hero or to see yourself win something, you know? And that's all people want. We want our opportunities. We want our time in the sun. And that's why woke culture is so important to the world. Is finally giving other people, non-white people, the opportunity to act, to be a hero, to be a champion, to do this, to direct, to write, to do stuff. That is why it's important. So enough with the whole, we're being replaced and everything. Stop acting like a little punk and you won't have to be replaced. When you act like an ignorant fool, you get replaced. Plain and simple as that. Because nobody wants to hear from your mouth. Nobody wants to go back in time. No matter how hard y'all are trying, nobody wants to go back to that crap. People want to move forward in life, not backwards. And there are those that will hold us down. There are those in our own community that hold us down, who talk crap. Like the dude who voices Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse, talking mess about Rosa Parks of all people, brought her up for no reason during a time when Black Lives Matter was very important and black people was dying. He's gonna run off the mouth about Rosa Parks and double down on it wearing a white hoodie. We all know why he wore that white hoodie and everything. And it's just like, wow. I tell you why, because it's an old saying in black culture. When a black person starts making money and starts to get a little bit clout and everything, they start smelling themselves. And right now, he smells like a garbage dumpster. Then there are people like Raven Simone, who is a black woman, who does not consider herself a black woman, and she wants to be known as a dark white person, but yet she keeps starring in all these black shows and all these black movies, but yet she blames black people for why her and her then girlfriend broke up, all because they looked at her. That got nothing to do with it. Nothing whatsoever. Then you have people like Tyrese and you have people like Terry Crews, which I don't know what the world Terry Crews was talking about. I don't even think he knows what he's talking about. And same thing goes for Tyrese. What the like, doing the whole black people getting shot by white cops and this and that, he's gonna bring up that black people in Africa have white slaves. Like what the why would you bring something like that up for? Like why would you like why? Why? And then you got all these rappers who help like influence all these young black dudes when they see their music videos running from cops and doing this and all this other crap, only for them to turn their back on black community when black people needed them the most and side with people who would oppress us and act racist towards us. And then you have the non-black people who want to hold black people down and talk mess about black people and use the N-word and talking about how like they're being replaced and talk about how like black men minds are different and apes this in Africa and all this other crap and oh my N-word comments were taken out of context. Nothing has to be taken out of context if you never use that word to begin with. And then you have the people who defend people like that. People talking about he's a genius. Oh, we're best friends. Or, oh, let's have a drink. And whatever the world Jewel was talking about. And then you have the other type of people who hold us down. And these are the people who are literally scum, the scum of the earth. Nasty, no good prejudice, racist little pathological liars, people who are privileged, who get things because of their privilege, who gets everything in life because of their last name. They never have to struggle for nothing. They get all these good jobs when they have a rinky-dink art history major, and they get all these jobs on TV and all these like a vice column type stuff when they are not qualified. The only thing that made them get where they are is their last name. They get their jobs because of their last name, their friends, their lovers, everything. The only thing this woman gets that she got on her own is the disgusting bacteria that is crawling around her nasty little body. That is the only thing her last name never gave her. And this woman is one of the worst of the worst, a pieces of crap. Scum. I cannot stand this person. This person is subhuman. This person is a brainwashed little robot who is not even human because she is soulless, and she had the nerve, and I mean the audacity, days before Black History Month, to side with a racist, a woman who talked smack about Black Lives Matter and all this other crap. And where she said, even though she does not agree with the racist comment she made, she said that the woman was only expressing her conservative views. So basically, she's admitting that conservative views are racist and oppress people. Good thing we know that for now. And then she had the other nerve to defend another racist person. Why? Because that is what she is. She constantly holds people down. And she has to hold them down. Because if people of color rise up, then they become on the bottom of the food chain. And what's worse is like, she has the nerve to always talk smack about like Black Lives Matter and people like kneeling at football game when that's about as peaceful as a protest as you can get. But she always goes on the attack about that because she wants to stir up her base and stir up her race and everything. And the thing is, she can talk all the mess about how she didn't like the attack on the Capitol and everything, how she couldn't stand those people, but she still admitted that she invited those same type of people to her big tent party. This woman is scum. This woman thinks she is the princess of America. This woman is one of the most hateful, prejudiced people in the world and has the nerve to wear her hair in buns, which is such an Asian thing to do, but yet she named a virus after an Asian country and defended her right for that and always wants to complain nobody likes her and everybody hates you. Yeah, you got that right. Everybody does hate your guts. Plain and simple as that. Because you are a low-life piece of crap is what you are. And you hold people of color down. You take jobs away from people of color all because of that last name. You are literally the worst. You literally attacked a television show for being woke and everything. As we all know, woke is like to have more people of color, women, and LGBT. And when the new Sex and the City went more woke, you were disgusted by that. But yet, about a year and a half ago, you went online talking about how there's no diversity in this white-filled television show. So you literally constantly lie because that is what you are, a liar and a hater. And what makes it worse is that she has an adoptive sister who is Black from Barbados. And she acts the way she does when it has to come to like Black injustice and stuff. Now, of course, her sister will never have to know the struggles of what it's like to be a Black person in America because she is protected by that family and also the political side that comes with the perks of having that. But you know what's funny is these rich white politicians adopt kids overseas because at some point in time somebody called them a racist, or it has to do with a rumor I heard that they get a nice check if they adopt a person overseas. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of funny how like all these white politicians who like oppress black people and talk crap about them happen to have an adoptive, like, black relative and stuff, or Asian relative, or Hispanic one. Also, shows need to also show proper representation of like black people and their struggles. Now, black awareness in television shows, I'm all for that. I'm just not for the checkmark system. I don't like it when shows only have black awareness episodes when something bad happens in the real world. Why couldn't we have a black awareness episode before that happens? Like a lot of shows on the CW, they had tons of black awareness shows around the year 2020 when black people were getting shot by white cops. That's important to show in a teaching lesson, but it didn't happen after that year for the most part. Take Batwoman. During that time, they had two black awareness episodes in season 2. In season 3, not a single one. It's just been abandoned. And Nancy Drew, they will have like one per season, maybe two at the most. And then they go back to doing whatever they want to do. But it's just like you literally just check something off a box. Show it. You don't have to show it in every episode, but let it be consistent enough to where you just like a simple line or an actual scene or an entire episode throughout this season. So it's not like you just did it just for like publicity or something like that. And black representation isn't just with like the dark skinned black people. It's sometimes for people who don't even look black. Like these people right here. Yes, they are black. I know. I know. You hear me? I know. So I'm thinking, gee, maybe those are Michael Jackson kids. Because you never know. Because each of these people have a black relative or ancestor. The Pretty Little Liars girl, her mom is half black and Creole. I know. I don't see no black in her whatsoever. The dude from Prison Break and The Flash, or the Arrowverse, as to say, he's half black. I forget how, but he's half black. That MMA girl who's in WWE, Ronda Rousey. I believe her grandfather has some black in him. And nobody knew this because I don't think Rhonda ever talked about it. Her mom talked about it when some reporters or some paparazzi people found them after they had got through having a meal, and the mom was more than happy to answer the black ancestor question. And then you have Haley Steinfeld, whose grandfather is half black and half something else. And the other girl, I forget her name. She was in Slasher. She is half black. The dark skinned woman who's like a Vulcan, she is half black. And somebody else. I can't think. Oh, the woman from the Orville, she's half black. But when you look at them, you can't tell. Now, some of them you can kind of tell, like the Vulcan lady. If you look deep down in her face, like towards the eyes, you can see it. Haley, you can only tell when she's tan, like that black is trying to come out and stuff. And welcome to the club, because a lot of people don't know because y'all don't tell people, and some of y'all do. And it would be nice to see y'all play a half black, half whatever type person with a family like that. Now, the only one that I've known that has done it is the girl from Slasher, whose name I have forgotten. and she finally got to play a half black person on screen for the first time. And it's like, I get it. You pass as white, you get on white roles, but do not forget who you are. Like, let people know what kind of struggles you might have had growing up. Because, there's bound to be some stories where you're walking around with one parent, you looking as white as a ghost, and your parent is black. Let's hear those stories, you know what I'm saying? So that young people or people who are older who look like you can relate and be all like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, it doesn't matter if you're getting like dumped on by white, black, Asian, whatever. Let's hear some stories, you know what I'm saying? And actually play somebody of your actual race on TV. And if they want you to play a predominantly white person, tell them, hey, look, I'm mixed. Can I play a mixed person and everything? The dude from Prison Break, he said that he's no longer going to play a straight role because he is gay. But I didn't hear him say he's going to play a biracial character. And so it's like, just because you pass as something don't mean you are something. And it's like, let's see that representation, let's hear those stories, because you are part of the club. And when it comes to a lot of these stars, I'm not saying these stars right here, but I'm saying just like in general, that are half black but don't look it. When stuff is going on in black culture, we never hear from y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, never. Like, we never hear y'all say like Black Lives Matter. We never see y'all at protests. We don't see you post anything online. You will have the whitest, ghettoest person who think they're black post more stuff about black awareness and other stuff than you will see in actual half black, half like whatever. And it's like, don't forget who you are. Just because you don't necessarily look like something, Because it's not fair when the people who actually look like a certain race are the ones getting judged and losing out on stuff. Like Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek. Like, she is an inspirational story. She was in Star Trek during the 1960s when it was a very hateful, pretty racist type time. And people in the network did not want her on the show because she is black. And she had to sit behind the captain and everything. She had the second interracial kiss on American television, but the first that of a black and white person having it. And it's like she received so much hate from the fans. She received hate from people who she worked with, like the production people. I don't know if any actors gave her hate, but it's a good possibility. That some of them, at least like maybe some recurring people probably did. And it was too much for her. It was too much. And she left the show. And as she was contemplating leaving, she met the man himself, Martin Luther King Jr., who told her, you can't leave that show. Don't you see what you're doing? You're doing something very important for all these young black kids. They're seeing a black person on TV, a white television show, being a hero to people. You can't disappoint them. Like, you have to like stick it through. It's gonna be hard, it's gonna be tough, they're gonna call you names, which they called her names and stuff, but you have to do it. And she stuck with it until the show got canceled. Then it got picked up for an animated series, and guess what? The network wrote her out because she's black. But the stars of the show, all of them, except for one, you can probably guess which one that is, because I didn't hear his name on this list. They all said they would not do this show unless she comes back. And so she was brought in, Chekhov was written out, and they brought in that Catwoman, which they disrespected the Russian dude. But he was one of the people fighting for her to be on the show. Like I said before, on this list I read, all of them said they will not do the show unless she's there, but I did not read one certain name. And it's the one that's always controversial and stuff. And this is why representation matters. Who knows where television would have been if she would have left that show. It might have taken a little bit longer for more black people to be on the television show. And she was denied all because of her race. And race matters. People matter. We are all human in this world. I don't know why everybody hates black people. And it's not just white people. Ever since 2020, People of other races have been speaking up. Jewish people, Asian people, Indian people, Hispanic people, Italian people, they have all spoken about how their people and their races do not like black people. What in the world did we do to you that caused this much hate? We did not ask to come over here. You brought us over here and everything. And just because our skin looks different from yours does not mean you have to hate on us. And just because you're trying to make white people happy doesn't mean other races who are not white and black have to like down us and everything. Because we are all the same in this world. You know, you're not the only people who like exist. We exist too. We deserve to be on TV. We deserve to sing our songs. We deserve to be heard. You know, we deserve to play heroes and stuff. We deserve to like have positions in like the government and everything. Because and when it comes to representation, we want real representation and animation. We don't want black characters added for the show for representation, just for them to have blonde hair, act white, and do things that normally a white person would do. We want representation like that of Static Shock. And we do not want representation in animation when the comic book version looks very black, only for you to then change the comic book version to suit that of like the popular animated series. Representation is even more crucial when it comes to that of casting black voice actors in roles in cartoons. See, normally in cartoons, if you have a black person, sometimes they're voiced by somebody who is not black, which is totally messed up. And it doesn't even have to be black. Sometimes they do that with Asian people, Indian people, every type of person. They're voiced by like white people, which is just like jacked up. And so it's like when it came to like Cleveland Brown, he was voiced by a white dude for many years until, of course, in around 2020, when all those like black shootings would happen, then that's when like a lot of cartoon companies are like, all right, we're gonna have people who are color voice people of color on the show. And so Cleveland Brown was changed and stuff. And you know, however, it's still happening in cartoons today. It's still going on today, like say in the animated movie that just came out, Catwoman Hunted. In that, I'm not 100% sure what race Catwoman is in this movie. She has a very dark tan. She looks black. She may be not. But when you look at the other white people in the cartoon, they look white, and she's the only one with that tan. Now, this is one misconception people had with Lex Luthor back in the Superman cartoon. He was really dark skinned, but he was not black. He was just more tannish and stuff. Because then you compare him to some of the other white people, and they had that same tan. Now, Catwoman in the comics has been white sometimes she's been black. And same thing on screen. However, a lot recently more, she's been portrayed as a black woman, voiced by black women, black actresses. Um, and even some have been like drawn with the black face, but kind of like more whitish people looking hair, short hair. And that's how this version looks in the movie. But the actress is not black. Now, don't get me wrong. She does an amazing job voicing Catwoman in this thing. And she should play Catwoman again, just as a white Catwoman, not as whatever this type of Catwoman is. I'm almost certain that she might be a black Catwoman, which means she should have been voiced by a black actress. And I don't know why the casting was the way it was. It makes absolutely no sense, and it is a step backwards in time. In the very famous and popular Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 80s cartoon, Baxter Stockman was black in the comics. For some reason, they made him white in the show to appeal to that of a white audience. Same with April O'Neil. Now, there is debate about her. When you look at older comics, she looks like a black woman, but because they were black and white comics, you can't really tell until they actually printed it in color and she has brownish, tannish looking skin. but she's always been white for the longest time, except for the newer cartoon, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Rise of TMNT, where she is in fact a black girl, which pissed off, of course, white people. However, two of the creators, one says he based April off his girlfriend at that time, who was half Asian and half black. And that's why he drew her the way he did, with black features. But then the other creator said April was always intended to be white. Those two always clash, they always fight. Who knows who's telling the truth? But you can tell just by looking at this drawing and stuff. Then there's the whitewashing of black characters. The Magic School Bus had two black kids on the show. They had Tim, who was very dark skinned, and then they had Keisha, who was more light skinned black. Now, the actress who played the original Keisha, she is mixed with black and white. So they probably went that way with her character. But then when the Netflix reboot came out, something got a little lightly colored. They decided they was going to lighten up the complexions of both Tim and Keisha, which pissed off fans. But those wasn't the only two that got whitewashed. Wanda, who is Asian, was made to look more white, and Miss Frizzle and her sister, who had Jewish features in the original cartoon series, now are portrayed to look more white and stuff. And this is why representation matters so much. We cannot let them get away with this. You must always voice your opinion and be heard. If all those toxic people can voice their opinions about being replaced and how they don't want this and that in their TV shows, we must voice our opinions and have people of the right color casting in roles that represent us and stuff. Also, don't race bend characters. Put them in a TV show and do absolutely nothing with them. And then write two of them off, all because you can't think of anything for them. That is so messed up. Do not race bend a character that is beloved in comic books and have her dressing and looking like this, just so people can make fun of her and then a year later change her appearance, which is what you should have had her look like to begin with. Treat your black stars better. Get them a hairstylist for the show. I'm constantly hearing all these black female stars talking about how they either have to get up early in the morning, do their own hair, because the show hired a bunch of white hairstylists, but not a black one, for that one black character in the show. Or how like their white cast stars are being racist to them, all because it takes a little bit longer for their hair to get done. It happens constantly in Hollywood, but nobody knows because they keep their mouth shut because they're afraid of losing their jobs. These three people right here get hated on, and it has nothing to do with their political party. It all has to do with the color of their skin, and there are always those that are going to try to hold those three back, and one of them is being held back right now because they don't like the idea of the color of her skin taking a job that they think is theirs and theirs only. Happy Black History Month, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.